All right, welcome everyone. This is 9.2 on solving equations by completing the square. Now, in order to complete the square, we must know these two special forms. Okay, it's a squared plus 2ab plus b squared equals a plus b quantity squared, and a squared minus 2ab plus b squared equals a minus b quantity squared. So remember what we talked about yesterday is the the fact that we're completing the square, the objective is to get this side here. Okay, we want this side here, right? We're building our equation up so we get this side here somehow, some way. Okay, so in today's lesson, we are going to use this special form to get that right-hand side of the equation. All right? And there are three separate scenarios where we're going to go through. So after the introduction of this, we're only going to do 7 examples, and then that'll be the lesson. Okay? So we're essentially getting a plus b quantity squared or a minus b quantity squared. And notice that a squared will always be the first term, and b squared will always be the last term. We're going to use that fact to get that special form on the right-hand side. And if this is a plus, this is also a plus. If this is a minus, this is a minus. Okay, so that's how we're going to build it. All right? And we'll cover that a lot more with our examples. So in today's lesson, we are going to use these two special forms to solve quadratic equations. This process is called completing the square. Okay, so our first example is here. And the first scenario is when your coefficient for x squared is 1. Okay. Okay, when your coefficient of your variable squared is 1, what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite it plus blank equals 11 plus blank. Okay? We are going to rewrite it like this. And then we are going to take the b, okay, the negative 10. And then what we're going to do with that is we are going to half it, and then we're going to square it. Okay? We're going to half it and square it. Okay, when our coefficient of our x squared is 1. All right? So when we half it and we square it, this is going to be negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to add that number to both sides of the equation. Okay, because it's an equation, we have to do it to both sides. Okay? And then what I built here on my left-hand side after I halved it and I squared it is actually a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Okay? So the simplest way to get complete the square, right? Again, remember that a squared is going to equal x squared. So if a squared equals x squared, a would equal x, right? Now, what else you have to remember, we just talked about, this is going to be a minus b quantity squared. Okay? So if a squared is x squared, my a value is x. And my b value, since b squared here equals 25, my b value is 5. And then since this is a plus, or this is a minus, this sign is also going to be a minus. Okay? So it's x minus 5 quantity squared equals 11 plus 25, that's 36. And then I have x minus 5 quantity squared equals 36. Now what I can do is I can square root it on both sides. So I have x minus 5 equals plus or minus. Remember, when I square root, I need that plus or minus. Okay? Square root of 6. So then I am going to add 5 to both sides. And that's going to equal x is equal to positive 5 plus or minus 6. So x is 5 plus 6, which is 11. 5 minus 6, which is negative 1. Okay? So big idea here on this example is when my coefficient is x squared, all we're going to do is get the coefficient of x, complete the square by halving it and squaring it, and then adding that number to both sides. Yes. It's most likely going to be 2 answers, yes. So my next example is x squared plus 6x equals 2. And notice, you're going to notice that all of the examples, most of the examples are going to be where the constant is on one side of the equation. Okay? That's actually your first step. To make the equation look like this, where the constant, or just a number, is on one side of the equation and everything else is on the other. So just to practice that a little bit, you can be given x squared plus 6x minus 2 equals 0, or x squared equals negative 6x plus 2, where our first step then would be to add 2 to both sides, right? And make it look like the big equation here. Or I can add 6x to both sides to make it like this equation here, right? That's your first step, to put one side, to put the constant on one side of the equation, okay? So once you get that, now analyze the coefficient of x squared, which is just 1, right? So if the coefficient of x squared is 1, we're going to rewrite it. So I have some blanks. Equals 2 plus blank, right? I'm going to get the coefficient of my x value, which is 6. I'm going to half it and square it. So that would be 3 squared, which is 9, right? So add 9 here and add 9 here. And the quickest way, the most simplest way, equals 11 to get the quantity squared. Since that's a plus, this is the middle sign is going to be a plus. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 9 is 3. Okay, it's a square root that ends, and then you get your a and your b. Okay, and then from here, we're just going to square root it to solve. So that's x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 11. I'm going to subtract 3 on both sides and get x equals -3 plus or minus square root of 11. And here are my two answers. Okay, this as well, this is two solutions as well. Okay, because you have the -3 plus square root of 11 and -3 minus square root of 11. Okay, and the square root of 11, we can't do anything with because that's a prime number, right? We can't simplify this out anymore. So when your coefficient of your x squared is 1, we're going to half it and square it, right? In order to complete the square. Okay? What happens? What if your a value is a perfect square? Okay, so just like 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, and so on and so forth, if my a value, if this value here, the coefficient of x squared, that's my a value, is a perfect square, we're not going to cut it in half. We're not going to half it and square it. We are going to use b squared divided by 4a. Okay? And remember that this is my a value and this is my b value. Okay? So since 16 is a perfect square, I'm going to rewrite it. 16x squared minus 16x plus blank equals 5 plus blank. Okay? To get the blanks in there. And instead of halving it and squaring it, I'm going to use b squared divided by 4a. So b is -16. So -16 squared divided by 4 times 16. That's my a value. Now remember my b value, you need to take the sign with it, right? So it's -16. Okay? You always have to take the sign with it. So -16 squared is 256. Okay? Divided by 4 times 16 is 64. Okay? All right, so 256 divided by 64, that is 4. Okay? With this 4, we do the same thing. We're going to add 4 to both sides of the equation. Okay, we just got the number to complete the square. Okay? So in order for me to complete the process of completing the square, right, we're going to take the square root of 16x squared. What is the square root of 16x squared? 4x, right? What's the square root of 4? 2. And since this is a minus sign, this symbol here is also going to be a minus. Okay, that's the simplest way to complete, to get it from 3 terms to a perfect square. Okay, and then from here, all we're going to do is we are going to square root it on both sides. So my left-hand side, I have 4x minus 2 equals plus or minus 3. Okay, don't forget that plus or minus. Okay. And then we're going to add 2, add 2. So then this is 4x equals 2 plus or minus 3. Now, when we have 4x equals 2 plus or minus 3, we could do one of 2 ways. Okay? I'll show you guys both ways right now. 4x equals 2 plus or minus 3. We can solve for x. Okay, just do the solving part first. So divide by 4, divide by 4. So x is equal to 2 plus or minus 3 divided by 4. And then from here, we can go x equals 2 plus 3, which is 5, divided by 4. 2 minus 3, which is negative 1, over 4, right? We could simplify it on our last step. Or if we have 4x equals 2 plus or minus 3, we can simplify it here. So 4x equals 2 plus 3, which is 5, or 4x equals 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. And then we can proceed by dividing by 4 all the way throughout. Okay, and then solving for x. Okay, so x here in this case would be 5 over 4, and x here in the other case would be negative 1 over 4. Same thing. Okay? So whatever way you want to use, you guys can use. Okay? You can simplify it the first thing, or you can simplify it later. All right? Questions on that? No questions? Yeah. So when your perfect square value, when you have a perfect square as your a value, we're going to use b squared minus 4a. B squared, not minus 4a, b squared divided by 4a instead of halving it and squaring it. Okay? So let's try another one. Okay? Let's try this one where it's 4x squared plus 12x equals 5. Okay? So notice that here we have a perfect square, right? If we have a perfect square, right off the bat, I know I'm going to use b squared divided by 4a. Okay, where my a value is 4, my b value equals positive 12. Okay, my a value is 4. Okay, before I use b squared minus 4a, I'm going to set it up. So 4x squared plus 12x plus blank equals 5 plus blank. So b squared is 12 squared divided by 4 times 4. 12 squared is 144. Divided by 4 times 4 is 16. So 144 divided by 16, that is 9. Okay? So I'm going to add 9 to both sides. So then to finish out the completing the square process, right? 4x squared, the square root of 4x squared is 2x. Square root of 9 is 3. Since this is a plus, this is also a plus. And then it equals 14. And then we can square root it. We can square root. So it's 2x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 14. Now square root of 14 we can't do anything with because that does just break down to 7 times 2, right? There's no perfect squares we can take out. So we just leave it as square root of 14. Okay? So then we just proceed by just doing basic algebra, right? Subtracting 3 on both sides. So 2x equals negative 3 plus or minus square root of 14. And please, class, make sure that you guys get into the habit of putting that plus or minus in the middle, okay, of the two terms. Yeah, that'll just be a button on your screen. Okay. And then here you will divide it by 2. Divide it by 2. So then your answer here would be x equals -3 plus or minus square root of 14, all divided by 2. Okay? And that's your solution.
We don't have to wait.
Okay? So that's what you do when the coefficient of your x squared is a perfect square. It's one of those numbers on the board, right? Okay? Use b squared minus 4a, or b squared divided by 4a. Yes. There is 2 answers here. -3 plus square root of 14 and -3 minus square root of 14 divided by 2. Okay? All right. So when your a is a perfect square, use b squared minus 4a. When your a value is 1, we're just going to half it and square it, right? Get your b value, half it and square it. But there's another scenario here. What about when your a value is not a perfect square? Okay, it's just a random number. Okay, it's not a perfect square. It's not 1, but it's a random number. We're gonna, I don't like the word rid, cancel our a value. We're gonna try and cancel our a value or get rid of it. Okay? This is the last scenario, yes. So we analyze the x squared, right? It's 1/2. It's neither a perfect square. We analyze the coefficient of x squared. It's neither a perfect square, nor is it 1. So we have to cancel it out. So how do I cancel out a 1/2? I'm going to multiply the whole thing, both sides, by 2. Okay? When I multiply it by 2, I'm going to distribute out that one. So 2 times 1/2 x squared is just x squared. 2 times 3x is plus 6x plus blank equals 28 plus blank, right? 14 times 2 is 28. Okay? And now, class, we just have my coefficient of x squared is 1, right? It's just 1. So I'm going to get my b value, which is positive 6, right? I'm going to half it and square it. So that's 3 squared, that's 9. I'm going to add 9 to both sides. Okay? So then x squared plus 6x plus 9 breaks out to be square root of x squared is x, square root of 9 is 3. Since that's a plus, this is also going to be a plus. Equals 37. 28 plus 9 is 37. Square root both sides. Right? X plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 37. Since 37 is a prime number, we can't take anything out. Subtract 3 on both sides to get x is equal to -3 plus or minus square root of 37. That's my answer there. Okay. So what if it was 2? This is my next example. My coefficient here is 2. It's not a perfect square, nor is it 1. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 2. Each and every one, right? So this is x squared minus 2x plus blank equals 8 plus blank, right? Now my coefficient changed from 2 to 1, right? It's a 1x squared, correct? So when it's a 1, we're just going to get the coefficient of my variable, negative 2. We're going to half it, and then we're going to square it. That's negative 1 squared, that's 1. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. Okay? So my left-hand side will become x minus 1 quantity squared equals 9. And then we can solve that, right? Yeah, really quick. X minus 1 equals plus or minus 3. And then I'm going to add 1 to both sides. X would equal 1 plus or minus 3. So my x value would be equal to 1 plus 3, which is 4. 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. Okay. All right. Okay. My last example is this. Which equation has the same solutions as x squared plus 17x minus 2 equals 1? So if it's x squared plus 17x minus 2 equals 1, what is my first step? Add 2 to both sides, right? So we're going to add 2 because I want that constant on one side of the equation. Okay? I need the constant on one side of the equation. So that's x squared plus 17x equals, or plus blank, equals 3 plus blank. Now, I look at the coefficient of x squared. That would just be 1. So I'm going to get my coefficient of x, 17. I'm going to divide it by 2, half it, and square it. 17 over 2 squared. That's a funky number. That's 289 over 4. Okay, so square both 17 and 2. 17 squared is 289. 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to add 289 over 4 to both sides of the equation here. Okay. So this is where taking the square root is the easiest route. Since this is a plus, this is a plus. 289 over 4, square root of that. Well, I just squared 17 over 2, right? So the square root of 289 over 4 is just 17 over 2. Right? Does that make sense? Equals 3 plus 289 over 4. To add those two numbers, we need the common denominator. So that would be 4. That's 12 over 4 then. Right? 3 equals 12 over 4. So 12 plus 289 all over 4, which equals 301 over 4, right? So your equation would look like x plus 17 over 2 quantity squared equals 301 over 4. Right? And then we're just matching that equation to one of those options. Okay, so I know that this is not it because it's a plus. 17 over 2 is 8.5. Quantity squared equals 301 divided by 4 is positive 75.25. So it's this guy here. Okay. So why I showed you guys this is I wanted to share that if your coefficient is odd, you're gonna come across some funky numbers. Okay, do not be afraid of funky numbers. Just deal with them the best you can. Okay, when we're squaring a fraction like this, right? Just square each and every one of them. 17 squared, so that breaks out to be 17 squared over 2 squared. Okay. All right. And then use the little tips and tricks throughout this lesson in order to complete that square. Okay. Any questions? That is the lesson for today, class. Thank you very much.